The Miracle on Maple Street. In the small town of Fairview, in the United States, during the 1950s, there lived a lady named Eleanor Baker. Widowed for over 20 years, Eleanor was a respected and beloved figure in the community. Known for her wisdom and kindness, she was often sought out by neighbors and friends for advice or just a friendly word. Eleanor lived in a modest two-story house on Maple Street. The house, old but well-maintained, was a reflection of his life. Simple, but full of human warmth. Her days were filled with small routines: tending the garden, reading old books, and, most importantly, keeping the memory of her late husband, Thomas, alive through her stories. Thomas Baker had been a veteran of the First World War and, upon his return, had worked as a carpenter. He was known for his exceptional skill with wood, creating furniture that was a true work of art. Although his absence was felt every day, Eleanor found solace in the memories of the moments they shared. The town of Fairview, with its tree-lined streets and close-knit community, was a place where everyone knew everyone. However, in recent times, the city's tranquility was threatened by a series of mysterious fires that destroyed properties and spread fear among the residents. No one knew the cause of the fires, but many began to suspect a criminal act. One cold October night, as Eleanor sat in her favorite armchair, sewing a blanket for her newborn grandson, she heard a noise coming from downstairs. Walking slowly down the stairs, she smelled smoke. His heart raced when he realized his house was on fire. Panic took over, but, with unexpected courage, Eleanor tried to put out the flames with a bucket of water. Unfortunately, the fire spread too quickly. Desperate, Eleanor was forced to leave home. Outside, the night was dark and cold, and she stood, shivering, watching the flames consume the house that held so many precious memories. Neighbors began to gather, trying to help as much as they could, but the fire seemed uncontrollable. As the flames roared, Eleanor, with tears streaming down her face, prayed silently. "Please, Thomas, if you can hear me, help me save our home," she murmured. It wasn't the first time Eleanor had spoken to her late husband in moments of despair, but tonight was different. The fire threatened not only his home, but his very life. Suddenly, something extraordinary happened. A luminous, almost ethereal figure appeared in the midst of the flames. It was a sight that none of those present could rationally explain. The figure appeared to be a stout man, with the features of Thomas Baker. He looked calm and determined, and in his hands he held an old carpenter's tool that Eleanor recognized immediately. The figure began to walk through the fire, which was mysteriously beginning to recede around him. The neighbors, mouths open, watched in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. The ethereal figure moved with precision, as if it were controlling fire itself. After a few minutes that seemed like an eternity, the flames began to subside, until they finally went out completely. Eleanor, still shaking, approached the figure. "Thomas," she whispered in disbelief. The luminous figure smiled faintly before disappearing, leaving only the carpenter's tool lying on the ground, intact. Neighbors quickly came to Eleanor's aid, still in shock. Some tried to rationalize what they had seen, but there was no logical explanation. The story of the miraculously extinguished fire and the appearance of Thomas Baker quickly spread throughout Fairview, becoming a local legend. In the days that followed, Eleanor found strength and support in the community. People came together to help rebuild her home, and many began to visit her more frequently, attracted by the stories and wisdom of the lady who seemed to have a special bond with the supernatural. The carpenter's tool, left by the luminous figure, became a symbol of hope and faith. Eleanor kept it in a prominent place, reminding herself every day of the miracle that had saved her home and, perhaps, her own life. She firmly believed that Thomas's spirit was still with her, protecting and guiding her in times of need. Over time, the city of Fairview overcame the fears caused by the fires. The story of Eleanor and the miracle on Maple Street has been told and retold, gaining new nuances each time. For many, it was a powerful reminder that love and faith can transcend even the barriers of death, bringing hope and protection when we need it most. Eleanor passed away, but not before living many years after the incident. Just as she preserved her husband's memory, part of the community did the same with his memory, and even after she was gone, she continued to be a respected and loved figure in the community. His house, rebuilt with the help of neighbors, became a symbol and testimony to a miracle, later becoming a community shelter and headquarters for social gatherings in the region. The legend of the spirit of Thomas Baker, who came to the rescue of his beloved wife, has lived on, inspiring generations to believe in the power of love and, under many witnesses, in the existence of miracles.